Hi everyone, Edna Kimble, Edna sells Century 21 Right Real Estate, and welcome to today's podcast episode. And we have a special guest. We have the police chief, Nate King.
Hi Edna, hi Green Country.
Yes, we're so excited. So I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about Nate that I've not ran by him yet. So we did a little Googling and found out some stuff. I mean, which you're a hometown boy, so it's not hard to find.
Correct. Born and raised in Tahlequah, Oklahoma.
And went to NSU, got that. And let's see here, you actually studied a degree for a bachelor's degree in management.
Yes.
Right? And then before becoming the police chief, you served as a dispatcher, a patrolman, a dare officer, a detective. You were the officer of the year for 3 years in a row. That's pretty good. Yes. You were the lead investigator under Sheriff Norman Fisher. And you served as director for the community for this community sentencing from 2009 to 2013. So that's a nice long one. But as a police chief, you have a ton of accolades and accomplishments.
Well, I would say the officers have a ton of accolades and accomplishments.
That's awesome.
You know, it's many days I'm just holding the rudder. But it's those men and women that we have that really the boots on the ground that get things done. It doesn't matter. One of the things I took from my college experience in management was it doesn't matter how good an idea is if you can't implement it.
Oh,
if you don't have buy-in from the people that are going to be carrying it out. And so we're as good as our officers. We're as bad as our chief.
Okay.
In a sense.
It all does start at the top, right?
It does.
So, yeah, it could roll downhill in a negative way. I love that. So tell us, I was super excited when I was doing, some research on this. You have, and your officers have implemented so many new things. Everything from the body cam to the e-ticket riders, which I'm not a fan of.
The e-ticket riders do make it much more efficient in writing tickets.
So tell us some of the ones that you're most excited about and has made a big shift for you.
Well, I think one of the biggest one over time that really helped with the transparency, with accountability, all those things was the body cameras. We were the second agency in the entire state to go to mandatory body camera wear.
Oh, wow.
And the first was Muskogee, Oklahoma.
Oh,
so two neighboring communities were the first two mandatory. There were departments that had them, but it was voluntary or didn't have to turn them on, but it's mandatory. And I tell you, when we tested a few cameras and gave them to some veteran officers, and they were not happy.
Yeah, sure. I can't imagine a camera with me
all the time. With everything you say, everything you do.
Yes.
But those same officers, once we implemented fully, they didn't want to work unless their body camera was operated.
Yeah.
Because the grand scheme of things, research has shown for years and years, it's like 99.7% of the time police officers get it right. They don't use excessive force. And so those body cameras in the 8 years we've had them, they have actually been adverse to one situation for an officer. Every other situation, they've exonerated the officer from a complaint that's come in. So we have to be an open book. In this day and time, law enforcement has evolved so much over the last probably 5 years especially that we have to be on top of our game. The training just keeps expanding it's not just about being able to lift weights and run fast, shoot your gun good. Now you got to be a counselor, a mom, a dad, whatever it is, every day at work. And so it just keeps expanding as far as what's expected.
And truth be told, somebody's probably videotaping you anyway, right?
They really are.
Everyone's got their camera and ready to.
And those clips only come out the part that benefits someone.
They don't show what just happened previous or after.
One of the things we really changed when I first took office too was to be more candid with the media. For decades, law enforcement, you go back to Joe Friday, even on TV, and it's no comment.
Yes.
No comment. Well, we're at a media stage now where there are so many media affiliates, outlets, even personal cell phones and Facebook, Twitter, that the story's going to come out.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I felt like getting out, one of the first ones to get information out, helped get correct information to people instead of trying to undo that original story.
Right.
So whether it's a shooting or whether it's a crash or a termination, we've tried to be open and honest about what's going on.
Now, is that why you've implemented your chief chat?
Part of that, COVID really spurred that along.
Okay.
You know, my wife calls me a social butterfly. I'm always and COVID was very tough for me because you didn't have the
Wanting to be out
different
in the public,
venues
yeah.
to be at, and so it was a way to stay connected with the public in a time of quarantine. And it's just the outpouring of support for that
Yes.
has just been overwhelming. Everywhere I go, people tell, "Oh, I watch you every week on Chief Chat." I love it so much, and so it's.
I think that your position can be intimidating to some people, whereas if they're seeing you weekly and you're being transparent and you're being just accountable and in front of the community, it makes you more approachable.
More
Yeah,
personable, and
yeah.
that's something I've always tried to just be Nate.
Yeah.
You know, the officers, they don't have to call me chief. I'll answer to just about anything. And I just want to be Nate. You know, the night I was elected, Jeannie Fisher, Norman Fisher's wife, my great aunt, told me, "Don't you ever forget where you came from before you got this position." That humility.
Humble.
You know, I had a childhood that preached humility. My mom and dad were both very strict and very hard on me and expected better all the time. And so you learn humility, and it's important when you get that badge and gun. Whoo! That power that comes with that of being able to take somebody's freedom it's you know, power's a hard thing to
Yeah.
deal with, and so you have to learn too. And most officers, I was one of them. You know, those first 5 years, you're 10 foot tall and bulletproof, and end up and as you work, you tend to mellow out and kind of circle back around to humility. And so we just. You know, we're part of this community as well. I've lived here my entire life, in and around Tahlequah, and my kids go to school here, my nieces and nephews, and I coach T-ball on the weekends, and the majority of our officers are the same way. They're hometown guys and girls, men and women. Guys and girls is too casual. But and so their kids are in the schools, their kids are in sports programs, their families are here, and so we truly care about the safety of Tahlequah.
Yeah, and it really shows. And again, I think just being out in the community and being accessible is what makes it work.
It does,
Yeah.
yes.
So Tahlequah's had some changes.
Tahlequah's changed a lot,
A lot of growth.
a lot of growth, still growing,
Yeah.
and I have no clue how many people are inside the city limits during the workday.
Right.
You know,
We're a population of 17,000, but that does not even touch.
correct. We grow tremendously during the
Yeah.
daytime.
I think we had 17,000 just at the Whataburger opening. What do you think?
I think we had about 73,000.
Oh, 73,000. The whole county came
and
out
I
for
talked
that.
to almost every one of them at Whataburger on that grand
you were
opening
out
day.
there.
And 16
Yes.
hours that first day directing
Oh, my
traffic.
goodness. Yes, well, I appreciate it because I live on that side of town, and you know, I have some shortcuts, but I forget because your car just kind of takes you, and then I was like, oh my goodness. So,
Yes.
yeah. So other than the Whataburger grand opening, what other challenges have you guys had recently?
Well, you know, and it's not just in Tahlequah, it's throughout Oklahoma, throughout the nation, but our rise in the number of unhoused or those experiencing homelessness
yes.
is probably the biggest and most frustrating challenge that we've seen probably in my entire 22 years in law enforcement. And it's connecting people with resources that want to be connected with resources. And it's something that probably more man hours each day are spent dealing with collateral issues related to the unhoused. And it's not the entire population. It's like most organizations. 15% of our unhoused are causing us 85% of the problems that we're dealing with.
Yeah, that's
Same way with
always
any board or
anything.
yes, 15% of the population commits 85% of the crimes, roughly.
Yeah.
And so,
Well, it's been a few years, but I heard you speak with the Homeless Coalition,
Mhm.
and something that I guess I knew, but I had not really internalized or taken it, you know, for specifics. You were talking about connecting them with the right people because a lot of them are not unhoused from choice, and it was there was a fire and they lost their birth certificate, so they can't get a driver's license, so they can't get a job, so they can't, and I was like, it made my wheels really start turning.
It's that hamster wheel, that
Yes.
undertow, they get stuck in the undertow
Yeah,
to where,
yeah.
and just not having a roof over your head, not being able to take a shower, brush your teeth. I mean, to go to a job interview, it just,
Right.
those, and one of the things from community sentencing was I administered assessments back then, and there, 6 major categories you look at for somebody to be high risk of committing crimes. Education, employment, friends, your home life, things like that are all, and so when you start taking
Those away.
those holes in a safety net, then it's harder for people to get the help they need or to get back on their feet.
Yeah, yeah. But you've got a lot of programs that you're working toward and working with.
We do. We still have Home for the Holidays. We had the community came together, donated a lot of money for us to be able to buy bus tickets for people that find themselves stuck in Tahlequah and can't get back home, which is a common occurrence. We bought 9 bus tickets in the last 2 months to help get people back to their families. back
Okay,
home.
so they're traveling cross country, the car breaks down, they have no, that
Yes.
type of situation. Okay, I'm sure it's not that simple, but I get the
Yes.
gist of it.
They get stuck in. They come here to take care of funeral arrangements for their family of some kind, and then they get stuck in Tahlequah and
Yeah.
can't get back.
Yeah. So because we're having such growth in our market, lots of new industry, which we're thrilled about in the real estate.
And lots of new housing.
Yes, absolutely. What does that look like for the growth of your department?
Well, bottom line of the city budget is what controls that. I think right now we may be on the bottom end, but I still think we're fairly adequately staffed for a town of our size.
Okay.
For the crime rate of our town even. Last year we responded to 37,000 calls for service in the city limits of Tahlequah.
Wow.
Filed 1,400 criminal cases, conducted about 16,000 building checks, about 12,000 traffic stops. And so it's something that, the police department, when I started in '99, after about midnight, there weren't very many cars out. There weren't very many places open, and now Tahlequah never shuts down.
Yeah.
We've recently edited or started a new schedule, which provides more time at home for the officers, but it also provides more officers on the street day in and day out for the citizens, which I've been really thankful for. Our officers now work a 4-day work week. They work 2 8-hour shifts and 2 12-hour shifts.
Oh.
And so for years and years, our minimum staffing standard was 4 officers. There'd be 4 officers working at any given time in Tahlequah, and now that's 6. We have 6 that are on duty and working 24 hours a day. So,
I love though that you've been able to give them more downtime because that helps solve some of their problems because it's I can just imagine
it's predominant
the
shift
stress.
work. And another thing, up until this schedule, there are 5 people in patrol that would have weekends off out of 24 people.
Oh gosh.
Where now we have 12 out of 24 that have weekends off.
Right.
I went 17 years of missing birthday parties, Christmas morning, if the right crime happened,
Yeah.
you went to work, but birthdays, anniversaries, ball games, whatever it was. And so an extra 52 days off a year really helps, I think, the mental health side for officers, the family side for officers. That work-home balance is very important. And the older I get, the more I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Yes, and so we're just trying to allow people to be home more, because I think they're going to be better officers when they're here.
Yeah. Yeah.
The more rested they are, the happier they are at home.
Well, just more patience and able to process a situation quicker and faster. And at the beginning of our conversation, you mentioned education for the officers. I love that. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, just some of the training requirements, or not even so much the requirements, but what's really needed to be an effective officer. Outside of how to handcuff someone, how to make a traffic stop, but those, law enforcement is 85% PR.
Oh, yeah.
Customer service. It's 85% customer service.
Yeah.
And so if you can't talk to people,
Protect and serve.
our greatest weapon, our greatest asset are our mouths,
Yes.
are our communication skills of being able to talk to people. Because many times we're dealing with somebody at the worst day of their life right then.
Yeah.
Or we're trying to fix a problem that's been brewing for 15 years in 15 minutes. And so those officers being able to communicate effectively, have compassion, and yet still do their job. The trickiest part about law enforcement is doing all that and also still being prepared to use deadly force in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
To have to switch gears like that. I mean, it's easy just to walk around and be mean all the time or be nice all the time.
Yeah.
But it's difficult to walk around being nice, ready to be mean at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, to cover all.
It's a challenge for sure. And so it takes a lot of mental and physical preparation.
Okay. Okay. Well, and that's, I think one of the big things for me is I love that you've basically, because I'm looking here at your bio, you've done all of the jobs, even starting with the dispatcher and then worked your way up.
Yes.
So that's pretty impressive.
From the bottom up. And, we have quite a few officers at the police department that started out in dispatch. That was one of Norman Fisher's things. If you wanted your foot in the door, you started out dispatching. And I really think, and it's not that people aren't good officers if they haven't, but it really makes an officer a more rounded officer if you've spent time in dispatch and understand what that dispatcher's going through.
The compassion that you have, but the inability to do anything about it, so that would change your shift when you're the one in the field.
Right.
So, okay. Well, we're excited that you're continuing to push the envelope in the growth for Tahlequah and what you're bringing to the department, because it makes us all feel much, much safer here in Tahlequah. I'm a small town girl, originally from Vian, chose Tahlequah, and now I'm seeing it just kind of explode.
Yes.
And I love more like controlled growth.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm seeing with you guys, is you're trying to stay up and stay ahead.
Have to adapt to the needs of our community.
Yeah.
You will be starting next month. We're going to start a special emphasis team within the police department, which will be made up of about 7 patrolmen that will, about 8 hours a month, they will work some sort of special shift, whether it's traffic enforcement, stoplight enforcement, or working narcotics, working the walking trail, the parks, things like that. And so looking forward to being able to really saturate a problem with 7 officers that are dedicated, even though it's just one day, but to be able to, that's all they have to focus on.
And are we going to see any bicycles around?
Yes, we have bike patrol, and that's one of the requirements for those officers on the special emphasis. They'll all have to end up being bike patrol certified. They'll be drone pilots. And so,
drones.
Yes, we added drones last year to the police department.
I did not know that. Is that for like crowds and?
We used it at the Christmas parade just to monitor for safety. We use it when someone runs away from us.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of having to just chase them, we set up a perimeter and fly the drone. It's got an infrared camera on it, and so we can really reduces our risk of on-duty injury for officers. Because every time we chase somebody or fight somebody, odds are, I don't think I've ever been in a foot pursuit in 22 years that I didn't fall down at least once chasing somebody. And so the odds of being injured really go up when you chase or fight somebody. And so it eliminates some of those hands-on events for police officers. There's been a lot happen in the last, I've just celebrated my 10th anniversary as chief of police. I've been the chief for a decade.
Gosh, has it been that long?
It has been 10 years. That's what I said when I spoke at the Republican monthly meeting this week, and I was reading my bio they put in there, like May 6th, I've been chief 10 years.
That's incredible. So what's next then?
Still being chief. It is the most satisfying and challenging job that I've ever held. And one of the reasons I ran 10 years ago was because I wanted to raise the bar for the Tahlequah Police Department. Raise those expectations and give back to the community, because this is a town I was born in, town I'll die in more than likely. I love Tahlequah. I love the people, and we're just so blessed to live in the community we have. And truly, we
really are.
We've been challenged the last couple of years. We've been shorthanded. We've been understaffed as far as vacancies go. It hadn't been a good time in law enforcement to recruit new employees, but right now we're full staff. The last 4 or 5 we hired are simply, they're rock stars. I'm very happy with them, and we just, from top to bottom, have qualified, compassionate human beings working for us. We actually right now have more women police officers working for the police department than in the history of Tahlequah.
Oh, that's awesome.
We have 4 women employed as police officers, have another 4 employed as dispatchers. So
They're moving up then.
yes,
They got their
and
foot in the door.
very excited to have a more diverse police department, because to serve your community, you've got to represent your community fully.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, having that diversity, I think, is super important, and that's one of the things I love about our college town.
oh yes,
We're a very diverse town.
We are.
So I would never not live in a college town, I think. So, well, it sounds like you've got so many hats that you're wearing and so many irons in the fire and all of those other analogies. So we're thrilled that you were able to make time to come out and join us today.
Oh, I was happy
Now,
to do so.
obviously, it's a real estate podcast, so I'm going to flip it to a real estate question real quick.
Okay.
If money was no object, what 3 things would you want your dream home to have?
3 things my dream home to have: an outdoor kitchen.
Okay. And are you the barbecue guy?
Oh yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes. An outdoor kitchen, a fire ring in the
Okay.
backyard,
Okay, a little bit of a pyro here.
and an in-ground pool.
Okay, well, those are not crazy. Those
Not
are pretty-
crazy.
Okay,
Yeah, those are pretty-
standard.
yes,
Yes.
pretty
Okay.
standard.
Good.
A
Well,
theater room would be nice too.
okay, but I mean, while we're at it,
While
right?
we're at
If
it,
money
I
is
mean,
no
yes.
object, we might as well make it. So you're kind of a homebody, it sounds like.
I am.
Yes.
And because not only am I the chief of police, I'm also the pastor at Welling General Baptist Church.
I did not know that.
Yes, been pastor there for about 5 years as well.
Really?
And with small children at home, coaching T-ball, when I get a chance to be at home, I like to be at home.
Gotcha.
We run a lot, and so I enjoy, in fact, my wife and I last night, and neither one of us got home till after 8. I said, when kids go to bed, we're sitting on the front porch and we're going to rock in the rocking chairs for a little while just to slow the day down.
Yeah, that's
so-
necessary. So,
Yes.
well, there's nothing wrong with being a homebody. That's what we love. So, well, we're super excited that Nate was able to come out and see. I even call you Nate because I feel like we all feel like we
I'm
know
Nate.
you. You
I'm
know,
Nate.
it's just Nate.
Yes.
Chief Nate.
Okay.
We really appreciate you taking the time, and we really appreciate what you've done for Tahlequah and what you continue to do. I think it's so important that we feel secure and protected. So,
Well, thank you, Edna, but it takes a community. It's, without the community support, without the officers we have, it's not possible. It takes all of us.
Love
We
it.
just happen to wear the badge and gun.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Everyone, thank you for watching this episode on how to real estate. We're going to put a link below for his chief chat, because if you haven't been watching it, you really need to. It's a great way to just kind of be caught up. You try to do those
Try to do them every Monday.
Monday. Okay,
We're
but
just about to start a YouTube channel, and so then they'll be shared even
Great.
to the city website
perfect.
and other social media outlets.
Yeah, and you can turn on the notifications so when he is on, it'll notify you. That's what I do. And please like, follow, and share this episode so other people can find Chief Nate. And as always, if you would like to be a guest on the podcast or you know of someone you would like to see, please reach out. We'd appreciate it. And thank you so much for watching.